Hello, and welcome to this foster care online training webinar, helping foster children in school, teachers and foster parents working together. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, the founder and director of the Foster Care Institute, and I welcome you to this important webinar. Our goal during this webinar is to increase the awareness of why children in foster care often fail in school and how to address this problem. During this online training webinar, you will increase your awareness of why children in foster care fail in school and why teachers, specifically teachers, have a difficult time addressing the needs of children in foster care while in school. You will also gain an understanding of how to develop and implement strategies designed to best partner with teachers and bring success to the children in foster care who are living in your home and who are attending school. Now, before I was a foster parent, I was a high school teacher. Indeed, if you have read some of my books, you know then that I became a foster parent because of the challenges that I saw in school while caring and teaching students at a high school level. It was after I became a foster parent that I recognized my fellow teachers and fellow school employees had no real clue or no real understanding of the challenges that children in foster care face. At the same time, I began to recognize that the children in foster care living in my own home were also struggling in the schools in my county and were slipping through the cracks, so to speak. It was at that time that I recognized there was a need to help teachers as a foster parent myself. As you well know, and as we have looked at in other webinars from the Foster Care Institute, when a child leaves the foster care system, when they're taken from their home, when they're taken from their family, when they're taken from the school that they are enrolled in and attending, when they're taking everything that is familiar to them, this is a time of tremendous uncertainty for these children. They are confused, they are scared, they are filled with anxiety, they're filled with doubt, they're filled with tremendous emotions that are swirling inside of them, and they do not know often how to express how they're feeling. This can be very troubling when they go to a new school system. In general, children placed in foster care perform lower in academics and have more behavior problems than the child from a traditional home setting. When a child is taken from his home, and taken from his family, and taken from his familiar environment, and placed into a strange home with strange people, a new foster home setting, this is a time of displacement. This is a time of confusion. At the same time, a new school is introduced to this as well, and this displacement becomes all the more unsettling for the child. Now, before we look at why children in foster care fail in school and why teachers struggle to help them, let's look at first why these children may be displaced from their home and placed into a new home and a new school system. Some children are placed from foster care due to physical abuse, some to sexual abuse. Some children enter foster care due to neglect from their parents. Perhaps there is medical neglect as well. Some children are displaced from their homes and placed into a new home, a new school system, because their parents are incarcerated. Some children may have been abandoned by their parents. Perhaps there is truancy involved as well. There are those children who enter the foster care system due to the death of their family. Indeed, I recently spoke to one child who voluntarily placed herself into foster care at age 14. Another reason why a child may be displaced from their regular home, their family, and placed into a foster care system because they are a juvenile offender or maybe they were a runaway. The problem lies in this. Children in foster care face particular emotional and educational challenges while at school. Yet so many of these teachers, so many of their brand new teachers and school counselors and school administrators are not familiar with these particular emotional challenges and these educational challenges. Indeed, there is a lack of specific educational background information given to teachers or foster parents or caseworkers when a child is often placed into foster home. So many times, a foster parent is left confused because they do not have enough information regarding the child. There is a strong need for involvement between foster parents and teachers and caseworkers, a network, if you will, to help the child succeed in school. This need is a pertinent one, it is an essential one, and it must be built rapidly. It must be built quickly between the foster parents and the teachers and the caseworkers, because that child who is new to the classroom setting, because he's now been placed into foster care, he may leave that foster home and new school to yet another displacement. Now let's look at 4 examples of children in foster care and the challenges they faced in school. Child number 1 was a 13-year-old boy placed into a foster care system and a new foster home. Indeed, he was enrolled in school, his new school, for 3 days. When he entered into this new home and new school, he had with him no school records, no school transcripts. His new school had a challenging time trying to place him into the proper classes and find the educational needs that he needed. After the 3rd day, he was moved from that foster home and placed into yet another foster home, another county, and yet another school system, all at the same time, with no records and no transcripts for that next foster home and that next school. Child number 2. A foster child was in need of special tutoring services that the school system he was enrolled in could not deliver. Indeed, he was placed into a small rural setting. His foster home, his foster family, lived in a rural county outside of a major city. The child had to be driven to a city in a nearby county 45 minutes away every other day to find the special tutoring services that he so desperately needed. At the same time, while he was being driven back and forth, there was a drain on the time and a drain on expense for all involved. This child could not find the school services he needed in the school system that he was enrolled in. Child number 3 was a 17-year-old girl placed into a foster home for 120 days out of 180 school calendar days before being placed into a residential group home. During those last 3 months, she had no records. It was a difficult time trying to place her in an appropriate class. The group home schools was unable to address the learning disabilities that she suffered from. Finally, number 4. 3 brothers, all placed into a foster home, all placed into a new school setting, a new school environment. All 3 had different learning disabilities. Yet again, these children were placed into a new school environment and they had no records nor no transcripts from the previous school. The boys suffered from malnutrition and neglect, and this indeed hindered any school progress they may have made. After 4 months into the foster care system and this school, the boys were sent back to live with their grandparents, and learn on their own as their grandparents were unable to meet their educational needs. Now let's look at some of the challenges that today's teachers face. Across the nation, in many schools in this early part of the 21st century, schools are having challenges of funding cuts and budget issues. A result, so many teachers are struggling in this difficult workplace. Today's teachers are no longer responsible for only teaching the child. To be sure, today's teachers have so many more roles and so many more responsibilities placed upon their shoulders. Roles and responsibilities that indeed almost overshadow the time they spend in each day in the classroom instructing their students. Today's teachers wear many different hats, so to speak, and have so many more duties to perform, as today's school systems have far more expectations from their teachers than ever before. In today's educational world, today's teachers or educators have more testing that they are responsible for, testing that their students in their classroom have to take. These include local testing, state testing, and even federal testing. There are those pre-tests and post-tests for each unit studied by the class. There are benchmark tests, standardized tests, end-of-course tests, final exams. And finally, there are those other tests that the school system may require, or the school course may require as well. Today's teachers spend a great deal of time planning. Add to that the added responsibility that many school districts hold teachers accountable for, including test scores, results, and grades. Many school districts across the nation today base the job performance of their teachers upon the test results from the students in the classroom. This added pressure from base job performance adds tremendous stress to today's teachers. Teachers today are expected to have more graded tasks or graded assignments or homework assignments, if you will, from their students. They need to show evidence that learning is taking place within each classroom. Homework assignments, classroom projects, reports, essays, quizzes, tests, and daily graded tasks are all part of today's classroom expectations. Indeed, teachers are grading more paperwork than ever before. Today, teachers are expected to have more graded tasks from their students, showing evidence that learning is indeed taking place within their classrooms. This includes homework assignments, classroom projects, reports, essays, quizzes, daily grades, take part of today's classroom expectations. It leads to this: more grading than ever before and less time for family and for life. Teachers today face an increasing workload. Today's teachers spend a great deal of time in preparation for classroom instructions, and learning has increased dynamically through the years as a result. There are various meetings that teachers are responsible to attend, required to attend, throughout the school day and after school as well. And then, of course, they have supplementary paperwork that corresponds with these additional meetings. So many of teachers today across the nation are responsible for parental contact, student progress, student behavioral and conduct reports, and other learning and behavioral-based reports. All makes up part of the everyday workload of teachers. Today's teachers also have to develop weekly lesson plans. And then there are those added tasks. Added tasks such as lunchroom duty or bus ramp supervision, hall monitoring duties, responsibilities of being involved in after-school sports or being involved in school clubs and organizations and dances. There is the responsibility of keeping up with the latest trends in education, changes in classroom standards, and advances in technology that all affect today's classroom. It makes one wonder, is there even time to teach in today's classroom? While so many teachers may have some knowledge about foster care, it is doubtful that there is a full understanding on the topic. Indeed, it is likely that the majority of teachers are not entirely aware of why a child might be placed into the foster care system, what the child might go through on a daily basis emotionally, how foster parenting works, and how the foster care system works in general as a whole. To be sure, many teachers make up what most of society makes up, a tremendous misinformation and false assumptions about the foster care system in general. In truth, teachers are not trained about foster children and the foster care system. They're not trained or informed about the certain challenges that children in foster care experience due to the unique traumas that require specific training and understanding in order to best meet the needs of these troubled children. Furthermore, there is very little literature on children in foster care or the foster care system and how they interact in schools in general. There is very little information or literature available for teachers about helping children in foster care in schools. This makes it very difficult for today's teachers and employees who wish to learn more on how to help children in foster care while in school. Many teachers simply do not know that there are foster children sitting in their own classrooms. These children, these hidden children, easily fall through the cracks. They do not receive the resources. They do not receive the understanding. They do not receive the compassion from the school teacher that these children so desperately need. When a child in foster care is enrolled into a school without past transcripts, school officials have a very difficult and complicated task of placing this new child into an appropriate classroom, a classroom that he has not already taken, a classroom that is suitable for his learning ability, a classroom that is appropriate for him. This can be very, very challenging and even frustrating for the teacher who has a child placed into his classroom and the teacher is unable to help that child, or unsure of how to help that child, or unfamiliar with the challenges that child faces. When a student is placed into a classroom without this information, many times teachers will have a difficult task of meeting the individual's academic needs, as well as being prepared for any behavioral issues that that child may face. School counselors frequently lack information, background information that is essential to that new student, that child placed into foster care. Without this important information, the school counselor is also hindered when attempting to understand the child and better understand his needs. Children in foster care, due to many times the anxiety, the trauma, the abuse they've suffered, they have a difficult time trusting somebody. There's a lack of trust and a lack of understanding between the teacher and the child. The child often has no healthy relationship with any adult in his life. Indeed, as they are placed from one home to another home and one school to another school, known as multiple displacement, this hinders relationships. This hinders trust. This hinders building of relationships and attachment. Hoffman and Leake once said, "We cannot teach students if we do not know them well. We cannot teach students if we do not know them well." So how can teachers help children in foster care? Well, to begin with, today's teachers can assist children in foster care, these students, in helping them develop appropriate and adequate social skills. Social skills that the children will need not only in the classroom, but in the cafeteria, the gymnasium, outside, and later in life in general. Teachers can encourage their new students to become more involved in school, with clubs, organizations, become involved in music or try out for sporting events and sporting teams, and other curricular activities that the school might have. Today's teachers need to be an advocate. They need to be an advocate and fight for the child placed in their classroom. A teacher, a school counselor, an administrator, or other school employee might be the very first adult fighting for that child to have a better life, championing for that child's needs, and ensuring that he gets all the help and the resources he needs to succeed and survive in school. Furthermore, school employees have the distinct opportunity of changing a foster child's life like no other adult in a positive fashion in this manner. Consider this. A child in school spends more time, more hours per day in school, wakening hours, than he will awake in his foster home. Teachers need to become an advocate for that child because they spend a considerable amount of time with that child. Today's teachers need to stress the importance of education and encourage a child to graduate from high school with the possibility of college, the possibility of technical school, or the possibility of military service as important options beyond secondary school. Many statistics indicate that children in foster care will drop out of school by 55%. 55% of youth in foster care will drop out of school at some point before graduation. Today's teachers need to stress the importance of graduating for youth in foster care at every opportunity. Teachers can also help by donating school supplies to the children in their classroom, or help gather supplies for their own school to be donated to the school system they work in, to be given to those children who may soon age out of the system. Paper, pencils, pens, calculators, backpacks, and other school needs can be donated to these children in foster care, and even as they age out, in case college is a possibility. Indeed, for those youth enrolled in college in the foster care system, teachers may organize bookstore gift cards or certificates, and can also be quite beneficial. And educators can assist by donating many of these items themselves. Today's teachers need to develop positive, strong, and healthy relationships with both students, the foster parents, and the caseworkers. Develop healthy, positive relationships with the foster parents and the caseworkers of the child in their classroom. When a teacher notices behavior or academic issues arising with a child in their classroom, teachers, counselors, and even school administrators should contact the foster parents as well as the caseworkers whenever possible and let the foster parents know the child may be arriving to their home after school with behavior or academic issues. Teachers and educators should seek out the opinion and advice from both the foster parents and the caseworkers in how to best address or deal with misbehavior or behavior issues from the student in their classroom. Today's teachers can relay any good news to the foster parents and the caseworker regarding the child's behavior in the classroom and the school. Teachers should allow caretakers and foster parents the opportunity to praise a child with his good behavior and encourage him to continue with it. Teachers can reach out to these adults with progress reports, with grade status, with perhaps weekly updates and other notices, all reaching out to the foster parents and the caseworkers, letting them know of the weekly progress or even the daily progress, the successes the child is having, so the foster parents can praise them for this. Children in foster care need to hear praise from both their foster parents and their teachers. Teachers can help their foster parents or caretakers find access to special education services or support programs that might be in the community or even online. Special education services or support programs that help to provide the needed resources that child needs in order for him to succeed in school. Teachers can direct foster parents and social workers to support groups or agencies designed to help children with particular types of learning disabilities. Indeed, today's teachers can show foster parents and caseworkers helpful websites and other educational resources. Today's teachers should always be listening for the concerns of the child, problems a child might have. And then when a child should address these concerns or problems, or the teacher should notice it, the teacher needs to let the foster parent know of any concern to warn them in advance before the child should return home, to prepare the parent before the child should return home. Today's teachers have a distinct opportunity, a wonderful opportunity, if you will, of being a positive role model for a child in foster care. Teachers need to treat their children in foster care with respect. Use discipline that works with a child. Teachers might consider time out in the school library, in the hallway, with a counselor, maybe a favorite teacher. Or perhaps teachers can consider time in with the teacher. We examined time in on another webinar. Use disciplinary methods that work for that specific child in foster care. So how can foster parents help teachers to help the child? To begin with, foster parents need to reach out on a regular, consistent basis to the teacher. As we've seen earlier in this webinar, today's teachers have an avalanche of work and responsibilities that they are required to do. Today's teachers are like today's caseworkers, overworked and overwhelmed. And today's teachers may need the foster parent to make that contact. As we saw earlier, a teacher might not know a child in their classroom is in foster care. A foster parent can let a teacher know that and let them know about the distinct challenges that child is facing. Foster parents can update the teacher and the school about the child's progress or problems at home. This helps to prepare the teacher for any problems that might occur later on in the classroom. Foster parents should let teachers know about visitations, both before school and after school. Many times, visitation is a challenging time for youth in foster care while they are in school. A child in foster care is focused upon the visitation, not the classroom. The child is focused on meeting with his birth parents or biological family members, not on his schoolwork or homework assignment. The child in foster care is focused upon what happened in the visitation and when they might see their parents next, not on the quiz or test that is tomorrow. So foster parents can let the teacher know in advance that there might be a visitation. This helps to prepare the teacher so the teacher can understand why the child is not focused on the homework or the class and realize instead the child is simply focused on being with his parents yet again. During these times of visitation, foster parents can ask that homework for the child be allowed to be late, or perhaps have a different time frame during visitation times. Indeed, the day of a visitation is not the day to have a major homework assignment assigned to the child. The day of a visitation is not the day to have a major test for the student. Foster parents should reach out to teachers and ask that tests or quizzes or homework be rescheduled around visitation time. Teachers should be reached by foster parents through all lines of communication. Indeed, today's foster parents should use all lines of communication to reach out to their teacher. Foster parents need to give today's teachers their email address, their phone number, text, letters, etc. Use all opportunities to communicate with the teacher. Foster parents need to reach out to the teacher on a consistent basis, asking for updates on the grades of the child, asking for updates of the behavior, asking for updates of upcoming tests and homework, because today's teachers may simply not have time to keep the foster parent up to date on what is happening in the classroom. Foster parents can help the teacher and the child by being a volunteer in the classroom. Foster parents can read to the class, read to students, volunteer with sports, volunteer with music, volunteer in general. Indeed, the more the foster parent is seen in school, the more the foster parent is heard in school, the more apt the child in foster care is going to succeed in the school. Today's foster parents need to help the child with the homework and studying. Many children in foster care are placed into a foster care system and placed into a foster home, and homework and studying has not been part of their daily life. In fact, so many youth in foster care may have never had anybody stress the importance of studying or homework or school in general. Today's foster parents need to stress that, stress the importance, teach it to the child. Make homework a daily priority in the home. Set up a homework or studying station for the child, perhaps in the kitchen, perhaps in the den, perhaps in the household library, if you will. Find an area for the child where he can have a homework studying station with pencils and pen and paper, calculator, computer, if you will. Those days the child does not have homework to do, have the child read a book to you or read a book independently. At the same time, children in foster care need to have strong, positive, healthy social skills to interact with their students, to interact with the teachers, to interact with the counselors, to interact with the school administrators. Help the child develop these social skills and understand social behavior, proper social behavior, while in the school and later on in life. You can find out so much about this issue, so much about this topic, at the Foster Care Institute. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook for more information and more resources on helping children in foster care in school. Email me about any questions you might have about this webinar or other webinars at drjohndegarmo@gmail.com. Indeed, the book Helping Foster Children in School examines this whole issue in depth. It examines why children in foster care struggle in school, examines how foster parents can help, how teachers can help, and how caseworkers can help, and how all three groups can come together as a team to help children in foster care succeed. And of course, there are several other resources available for you as well at the Foster Care Institute. Thank you so much for being a foster parent. Thank you so much for being an advocate. Thank you so much for being a caseworker. Thank you for helping children in foster care. Thank you for what you do. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo.